And welcome to the Striped Onion Show, where we peel them back good. And now to our host, the man with the plan, Sergeant Peel.
All right, friends. Welcome back to the SOS Show. I'm going to tell you, we've got a great SOS call with one of the Low Country's, I'm going to say, top dogs when it comes to law enforcement officers involved in CISM communities. Mr. Guy Van Horn is the coordinator for the Charleston County Sheriff's Office CISM peer support team. I will tell you, I've known Guy for a few years, and I am stoked about today's SOS call. Before we get to it, though, I got to ask you, please share this call, today's SOS call. Share it across your social media platforms. That's how we get the word out. That's how we help our first responders get through their struggles or get through their hang-ups, whatever it is. There's something from today's call that may resonate with one of our brothers and sisters. So please take a minute, share it out there. Also take a minute and visit our website, thesosshow.com, just to check it out, see what we have there. But without further ado, I want to go straight into this SOS call with Guy.
All right, y'all, I've got a great guy. Hey, Guy, how are you doing today, brother?
Doing great, Sarge, doing great. No pun intended there on that great guy thing.
You're a great guy, I'm telling you. So, Guy, let me tell y'all, friends, I've got this guy. That's interesting there, Guy. I'm going to say Guy a lot. I could see this already going that way. Anyway, Guy is a good friend of mine. He's from the Low Country of South Carolina, down around Charleston. And to be honest with you, Charleston's one of those spots that I love to go to for vacation. I've got family down there, so Charleston's in my heart, and I'm glad that he's on the front side of my shows. So Guy, he's a retired cop. He's a retired cop. I'm jealous. There we go. I said it.
You'll get
Guy,
there.
I'm jealous. Yeah. Well, Guy, I don't have but a couple years.
There you go.
But Guy, I've known Guy for a few years. He's in the peer support world. He's got a great story of how he got there. So, Guy, do me a favor. Take a quick minute. Tell our SOS friends how you got involved in the first responder community as well as the peer world.
Well, thank you, Sarge. I'd love to. Hello, everybody, and good morning. 40 years, retired deputy sheriff with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. I'm a little bit older than most of us. I'm in my early 60s, but I love my career, love what I'm doing. It didn't start out to be what it is right now, but I just love police work. I love cops. I love being around first responders, and I love now being able to give back a little bit, share my experiences with other cops, and hopefully help them out a little bit. I came out of the military in the early 80s and went into law enforcement, and after cutting my teeth on the road for 4 or 5 years, I had an opportunity to go into narcotics. And this was in the mid-80s. This was Miami Vice, the whole kit and caboodle of that world. And
did you have the white jacket? Did you have the white jacket? That's all I got to know.
I did have a sports coat. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say that I didn't have socks on. So yeah, I was trying to be the Don Johnson, and I might have had a flowered shirt or two.
I'm telling you right now, and I'm asking for it. If you find the picture, I want it. If you find the picture, it's going up. I want it. So keep going.
It was so bad, Sarge. The notorious picture is I had a mullet perm. So, yeah, that was pretty much the low part of my career. But yeah, seriously, part of being in narcotics, like most cops know, is that run and gun mentality, and I was having the time of my life. But at the same time, what I didn't realize is the price that I was paying a personal note with my family and my kids and my health. We were working mostly nights and hard charging and kicking doors and taking names and celebrating our victories with with alcohol, and I was having a hard time transitioning to coming home and cutting the grass or taking the trash out. I couldn't imagine. The thought in my head was telling my wife, "Don't you have any idea who I am? I'm a Superman, taking drugs off the street," and my whole identity was wrapped up into that, and I was having the opportunity to use more and more alcohol to help me cope with the difference between being on the job and being at home, and I was not in a good place.
Absolutely. We've seen that several times. We've got a lot of good friends and followers that are relating. A lot of them have gotten their treatments and stuff like that. And, that's what's one of the great things about the show is I want people to understand that we talked about, a level of unfiltered. This is real. This is a real problem we have in our community. And, I know Guy's story, and I'm glad Guy's on this show to tell y'all it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to start asking for help, because the mentality, and I know Guy's going to back me up when I say this, but back then, and even as recent as a few years ago, it was don't talk about it and just bottle it up and even go to the bottle.
Right.
Was how it was promoted. So we're getting away from that. We've been getting away from that for a long time. So I know Guy's agreeing with me. That's why I wanted Guy on the show. So,
yeah. Sarge, I tell you, I thought at that point that I was going to lose everything, lose my family and lose my career. And I reached out to some older folks, like you talked about. We didn't have a lot of options, a lot of resources. I reached out to some older folks at the sheriff's office that I respected, and the solution then was to move me into general investigations, into the detective office, which, as a narcotics investigator, I always looked at those guys as, less than, and, they weren't real cops, But what I found out is when I got into investigations, I took to it, I liked it, but then I was faced with, it was not a good place to hide, because I was faced with the victims of crimes. And I was overcome by, the stress of dealing with victims, and unlike TV, not being able to solve cases, overnight. And as those cases began to pile up, I went back to my old friend, the bottle, as a coping mechanism. And again, found myself, at the bottom of my career, barely hanging on. I was not much of a cop, not much good to anyone, let alone myself. And I was just about at the lowest point in my life. I didn't really have any hope, and I really didn't see any, reason to go much further. And it was at that point, luckily, that my wife decided to take our kids and go to church. And she said, we're going to church. You can come with us, or you can stay at home, because you can imagine at that point I was all about excuses and isolation and staying hidden. And thankfully, for one reason or another, I went, and just spending a little time in that environment, began a relationship with the Lord, and that really kind of saved my life, saved my marriage, started turning things around, not only at home but in my career. And that was the turning point that I put. I had a new outlet for my stress management, and I didn't need alcohol to help me cope anymore, and it really turned things around for me.
It's amazing that you say that, because one of the biggest things that I've noticed throughout my career, how many first responders, not just cops, but how many first responders aren't connected with some type of faith or religion?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you brought it up. We're going to talk about that for just a minute.
Okay.
Because that is, you'd be surprised, that is a level of treatment per se. You're a prime example.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say I'm a prime example. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sarge. It's a tool. I don't want to. I'm always reluctant at this point, and I want our listeners to know this is what worked for me. But it's a tool. It's not the entire. It's not the entire thing that's got me to where I'm at. So, if you don't have a relationship with God, please don't turn us off, because we're going to talk about other things that are going to help you. We know that if it's not a relationship with God, we know that it's important for our health that we believe in something bigger than ourselves.
Bingo. There you go.
Whether that's God, whether that's another form of religion, whether that's the great outdoors, just anything, that believing in an entity bigger than ourselves, something more important than us, is just so important to us getting better and staying stronger as we move forward.
So you kind of stole the words out of my mouth, guy. Now I'm not starting to like you. You stole what I was going to. You stole my thunder, brother. I was going to say, have you ever heard of a program called F3?
No.
It's a fitness program. It started in Charlotte, North Carolina. F3nation.com for anybody that's listening, but it's got its core principles are talking about fitness, faith, and fellowship.
Right.
Fitness is part of it because it's all about trying to work out with your brothers. Then you got the fellowship side to where you actually have relationships with other men in the community, and you foster it and you build on it. And then the last thing is the faith. You just said it right there, faith. It's not trying to say you have to be this religion or that religion. It's all about just believing something that's more than you, that's higher than you, and it gives you another sense of purpose.
Right.
So for anyone that's listening, I had to throw my F3 plug out there because I love F3 Nation. They're such a great another resource that you would be surprised how much can help you as well.
Yeah, please do, because as you described it, I did remember. I have a friend who recently lost a battle with cancer, but he was involved in that program, and my main focus for fitness is CrossFit. And when he explained to me what they did, I thought they were radical. I think more because his group was doing it like at 5 a.m. Maybe that's what I found radical about what they were doing.
Well, guess what? You're going to think I'm crazy. Guess what? 5 a.m., that's when we work out. So, and you're going to laugh. I will tease it out there, and I'll tell y'all my name. So when you do F3, your brothers will give you a name on your first workout.
Right.
Do you want to know what my name was?
Of course I do.
I'll say this because this is my nickname. They call me Crockett. So guess what? You get a laugh because I am now named Crockett in F3 Nation. So that's a different story. We'll definitely have to talk about that one later. So, all right, I want to get back on point with this. So tell me about how church, if you real quick, take a minute, go into the church. Tell me how that actually helped you.
So, Sarge, I got involved. I'd never, of course, like most Americans, I knew about God and Jesus and Christmas and Easter, and that was about it. Listen, when I got to church and accepted Jesus as my Savior, I wasn't radically transformed at that moment, but I knew inside, I knew that something was different. And it was at that point I began a journey. And on the spiritual side, I began to pour myself into what the church offered as far as learning about the Bible, having relationships with other people outside law enforcement, and that I could trust them. Learning about biblical principles that I had no idea about. So as I started taking these baby steps on the faith side, believe it or not, my career started improving. I didn't need alcohol anymore to help me cope as a cop, so I became a better cop. I became a better partner, a better backup. I then started, people realized there was something different about me, and they started giving me more responsibility, and I was able to be promoted. And as I began to be promoted and I began to continue this walk in faith, and my marriage became stronger, I became a better husband and a better father, my heart started not only turning to God, but it turned to those other police officers that I drank with, those other police officers that I ran with, those other police officers who weren't so lucky that their marriage ended in divorce. They got caught for DUI and were fired. I didn't want to leave them behind. God not only helped improve me, but he turned my heart that I now wanted to reach. I didn't want them to suffer the way I suffered. I didn't want new cops coming out of the academy to suffer the way I suffered. And this desire to help people, I didn't know what to do with it, and it actually intersected about the time of 9/11. As a result of 9/11, critical incident stress management and peer support and PTSD, all those things came to the forefront of our law enforcement profession. And it was at that point I found SC LEAP, and I found the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. I found they had training for peer support, kind of got on the groundwork at the sheriff's office about, hey, this is really something that we need. I was blessed that my boss, Sheriff Cannon, he was a reserve in the Air Force, so he knew a lot about the programs because the military was a little farther advanced than we were, so he knew the value in peer support in those programs. So all these things kind of culminated right after 9/11, and at that point, the sheriff kind of put me in charge of our peer support, and it was at that point that we created a peer support team. We started seeking out training. We started partnering with Eric, was just getting SC LEAP off the ground at that point, so a lot of things were all coming together, in a perfect timing as we kind of started out in the early 2000s moving forward.
So, and specifically, you're talking about y'all created a peer support team or program actually inside Charleston County Sheriff's Office.
We did. We created a peer support team. We believed then, and we still do today, that team we created then still exists. We believe the most critical aspect of helping first responders are properly trained peers. Mm-hmm. Properly trained peers are what hurting first responders gravitate towards. They make the difference. By no means are we our peers lone wolves, but they're the thing that touches first responders that are hurting. And to know that we're backed up though by our training, we're backed up by mental health professionals, we're backed up by EAP and other resources throughout the state. But it's that people want to tell their story, and people want to be heard, and peers are trained to listen. And peers are so valuable because the struggling first responder can say, hey, this is a guy, this is a girl who's been where I'm at. They have a badge, they wear the uniform, they've had the same struggles. They're not perfect, they're just a little farther down the line than me. They've walked through what I'm walking through now, and that's why it's still there. That's the key to our success is those trained peers that have a heart for other first responders.
I don't know. I wouldn't say it's just the key. There's like a key ring on this thing, because I'm going to tell you, you hit the nail on the head with that key, but there's so many keys to this because you talked about the relationship with SC LEAP. Now, for those that are not familiar, SC LEAP is the South Carolina Law Enforcement Assistance Program. And if you'll jump back one episode, you're going to see I did an interview with a guy named Eric Skidmore. Which guy is referring to? That's Eric. I called him E through the show. That's just how does he sign his text to you?
Yeah, E.
Letter E. Yeah, exactly. So, but SC LEAP is just another program, and it's not just another program. It's a great program. But what Guy's referring to is how Charleston County has a program. The state of South Carolina has a program, just like the state of Georgia has a program. North Carolina, Texas, you keep going all around the country, and there's programs everywhere. But
Right.
the cool part is that a lot of these programs are intertwined.
Right.
So if Guy has something happen in Charleston, and he's going to, once again, say, yep, you're right. But if Guy has something in Charleston that is a lot bigger than normal, Guy's got the resources attached from several states that he can call just about anybody and say, hey, I need some help. And he's going to, in return, get a bunch of peers that are going to fit that criteria, and they're going to show up and help.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah, that's the network is so important, because I know there's some listeners out there that are saying, yeah, but you don't know my story. I heard his story, but that's not the same as mine. You may be a cop, but you don't know what it's like to be a sniper on a SWAT team and have to pull the trigger. And our listener is absolutely right. I do not. But I know this. I know that there's a trained peer somewhere in South Carolina, somewhere in North Carolina, somewhere in Georgia, or somewhere around the country that has been where you're at. And through this network that you talk about, Sarge, we will bring that peer to you. You'll sit across from someone who's done exactly what you've done, been where you're at, and will share with you how they successfully navigated that. And that's the essence of what it is. There's always somebody out there that's been in your boots downrange, and they've made it back, and they want to share how they did that.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it, too. So I'm glad you said that. And I'll just add one little token to that is, the whole peer element, when you look at the entire mental health picture, the whole peer element is the first step. And a lot of times it's the only step you need.
Right.
But it is the first step. It can be the step that bridges you to another level of support and care. So when I talk about this, the reason why we created this show, y'all, is just for this factor right here. We want people to understand exactly what peer support is. We want you to hear it straight out the horse's mouth. Guy is just another resource that has lived the life. And Guy, can you count how many people you have helped? Exactly. None of us can. I can't tell you how many people I've helped. I can't tell you how many suicides we may have averted. I can't tell you how many lives we have changed. I can't tell you how many marriages we have saved. That's just a fact.
Right. And we're doing what we do because there were people that did the same for us.
Bingo.
The same for you and I.
It's all about paying it forward.
Yeah. Amen.
Yes. So let me ask you this. So you talked about Sheriff Cannon. So he's a big proponent. He loves the peer support program, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Your agency's a bit larger. It's one of the larger agencies in the state of South Carolina. So I can see there being an embedded peer support program.
Yeah. So as we talked about, as my career moved forward, I retired as a chief deputy from the sheriff's office. I left the sheriff's office in 2011 and went out and was the director of security at a small college in our area. And oh my Lord, what an eye-opening experience going from being sworn for 30 years to a college setting. But a few years after,
is that a culture shock there?
oh my Lord. And it was not a sworn position. But I tell you what, it was it took me in a real interesting part of my journey. It helped get the kind of the chief deputy out of me and kind of humbled me and brought me around. And a few years later, I was with the North Charleston Police Department as a police officer, and the chief there had hired me to do special projects. So it really helped me evolve through that, and working through special projects was really rewarding. And in 2018, Sheriff Cannon calls me and asked me to do lunch, and we had a discussion at lunch. He had an idea with peer support that he was worried that he had some employees that may be falling through the cracks of the resources. Like you said, we're a large agency, so being involved in a critical incident, you have the peer support team, you have immediate supervisors, you have staff supervisors, you have maybe outside resources, and that's a tough roadmap to navigate when you're on your own. So there were some people maybe dropping through the cracks of some of the care that they might have received. So his idea was he wanted me to take the position of being the peer support coordinator so I could be the advocate for those people. So I could do training, so I could make sure that our folks involved in critical incidents got everything they needed so they could return back to work. And so in 2018, I hung up the badge for the last time, and since then, I've been the full-time peer support coordinator at the Sheriff's Office. We have a peer support team on the law side and one on the detention side. We're heavily involved with Eric Skidmore and the state peer support team, involved with our neighbors, with North Charleston, the city of Charleston, the different counties that surround us. So I have my dream job that didn't even exist. So it's like the culmination of the road that I traveled through my career, brought me to a place where now the things that I've learned and the struggles that I've had, I'm able to use to help people every day. Because we don't want folks to be confused that we all struggle. That's part of the tough job that we have. And because you struggle doesn't mean that you're broken or there's anything wrong with you. That just means that, hey, you have a heart and you're trying to cope and you're trying to do the best you can. And there's just a wealth of people and resources out there that can make it easier for you.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you, that's one thing that I've learned too, is that in paying it forward, it's almost therapeutic to me when I pay it forward to help another officer. Yeah. So that's the exact same stuff there. And I'm going to tell you one thing I'm appreciative of, and if you see the sheriff, tell him I said thank you for getting you in this position, because one thing the Low Country needs as much as it is growing, because if y'all don't know, not just Charleston, but the area around Charleston is growing like crazy. So these officers are having more and more interactions. The biggest thing, the fire departments, they're running like crazy. EMS, the dispatch centers, I could just only imagine the nightmare inside Charleston County Dispatch.
Right.
But those dispatchers, the 911 telecommunicators, every one of these folks needs stuff like this in place at a local level. So I am very thankful that you're down there, guys. So that's a great thing.
And we truly mean first responders, because like you said, Sarge, 911 operators and dispatchers, EMS, we know that firefighters, they're usually the first medical people on the scene at car accidents and serious incidents. We include the whole first responder family when we talk about care and we talk about working together and we talk about debriefings. We try to include all of them, because we all might wear a different badge and have a different job, but the stress that we're under and the things that we see and experience, we all have they're all common denominators of where we're at, and we try to work through all those things together.
That's awesome. Listen, I seen something on your paper that you sent back to me when I asked you just to fill out my info sheet, and I'm going to tell you, it has really piqued my interest, and we've got to talk about this, okay?
Okay.
I saw this thing that you put on here, that you're a part of the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team Law Enforcement Ministry.
Yes, sir.
Now, that just name is intriguing.
Right.
I want to know more about it personally, but I want you to tell everybody about it. What is the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team with law enforcement?
Well, Sarge, I'll do my best, but tell everybody right now that, they have a great website, so check out that website. It'll be much more detailed than I will. But I tell you, again, it goes back to the roots of 9/11, surprisingly. Not too long ago in our journey, my wife and I, we saw an advertisement for a law enforcement retreat outside Asheville, North Carolina, at the Cove. And the Cove is the Billy Graham training ministry set a few miles outside Asheville. So my wife had been there a few years earlier at a women's retreat, and she said, oh, this place is gorgeous. It's on the side of a mountain. It's just beautiful and restful. So if anything, when we saw this, our desire was just to kind of get away for a couple of days. So we went to this law enforcement retreat. Probably it might have been their second one about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was just a really moving experience. And to be in a room with 100 so police officers and their significant others praising God, raising their hands. People there were from all over the country. They were broken. They were all at different parts of their journey, but just the fellowship and the love and the respite that we had was just really powerful. At the same time, they talked about wanting to not just have a retreat, but wanting to expand things that were already in place at the Billy Graham ministry. And that goes back to one of the arms of the Billy Graham ministry is Samaritan's Purse. And Samaritan's Purse is what you see around the country. They respond to hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, natural, all the things that we see. Samaritan's Purse responds, and they help people rebuild their homes, clean their properties. And part of that was rapid response chaplains. So they have trained chaplains that go with them. So as a team of people are chainsawing down trees in your yard, they have people that are trained in chaplaincy that, you know, that take care of people's spiritual needs, emotional needs, try to help them any way they can. So that's kind of the basis. Franklin Graham, after 9/11, was at ground zero. And as he saw things unfold, what caught his eye were first responders. First responders there at ground zero, there throughout the city. And it was this, he saw the look in their eye, and there wasn't anybody there for them. There wasn't anybody to help them because they were there helping others. So out of that came his desire to build a ministry that would be able to help and support first responders and help and support law enforcement officers. So their vision 5 or 6 years ago was to lift up first responders, police officers that love the Lord, that then wanted to, like we talked about, go back and play it forward and help others. So the law enforcement ministry is people who have a heart to do that. So take situations where no longer are they necessarily natural disasters, but talk about the civil unrest, the riots in Ferguson. The Billy Graham Rapid Response Team sent law enforcement ministers there to be out on the front lines, to be with the cops out there those nights, to be with the protesters, just to bring God's presence to those people that were out there, to bring some light into those darknesses. So the ministry has grown from there and continues to evolve. But they just have a heart for cops around our country, and there are, you know, there's more and more training. The ministry continues to grow to do more things, but what really piqued my interest was their focus on civil unrest and helping police shootings, line of duty deaths, sending trained, because not everyone has the resources at their disposal. So they love to partner with agencies who don't have the resources of chaplaincy. And the one thing that really sealed the deal for me is not only are they chaplains who love the Lord, but they're also trained in critical incident stress management through the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. So based on my experience, I knew, one, that they loved God, but I also knew that they were trained peers that would deliver the same level of care that I was accustomed to.
That's awesome. I'm going to tell you that Man, that needs to be said more and more.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head with one thing that takes us outside of that. So remind me to talk to you about chaplains real quick. But
Okay.
so with the Billy Graham response team stuff, rapid response team stuff, tell me, where have you gone with? Where have you been with it? Just real quick, I want to know where you've gone with it, because you're a part of. You actually serve with them.
Right. My first response was down to Alabama a few years ago in reference to tornadoes, and myself and a police officer from North Carolina, we were sent down there strictly to focus on first responders. There were rapid response chaplains down there that were focusing on the homeowners and their community, but the love they have for first responders, our job was to seek out the first responders that, I believe that tragedy had 29 deaths, and, that county had one coroner. So that coroner had to process everybody, and this was a small rural place, and he knew everybody. Fire departments were small, 12-man departments, and they didn't have a lot of resources. So we did a lot of one-on-one and group debriefings with first responders down there. And we deployed for a week. We spent down there. And then deployments are usually a week, and then they'll send in 2 other first responder law enforcement chaplains to continue the work. So they know that the people that volunteer there's some retired police officers, but there's some active duty police officers, so they know that their time is limited. So we try to do a deployment maybe a week at a time, and the fact that you run pretty hard, you're caring for people, so a week is about as much as is healthy for you. So that was my first deployment. My second deployment was actually my wife and I deployed together to Virginia Beach. They had a terrible tragedy a couple years ago where they had an ex-employee come to a municipal building and murdered, I believe it was about 15 people. And again, our sole purpose was to minister to support the law enforcement and first responder community there. And then also I responded. This was kind of surreal, Sarge. I responded to Florence, the critical incident of the sniper and our fallen officers in Florence. I responded with the Billy Graham folks because that was the first call I got. But then I was there with SC Leap and my brother Piers. I was just wearing a different shirt, and it was so cool to see the seamless interaction between the Billy Graham Law Enforcement Ministry and SC Leap and the other help entities that were there. So it was a really good visual to me to see how these things are. It's not territorial. I learned early on that there's always going to be tragedy, and if you didn't get to go to this one, there's going to be another one with your name on it down the road.
Absolutely. So the last thing I'll talk about real quick is chaplains. I'm going to tell you, to the chaplain followers out there, and there's many chaplains out there that we know are embedded, whose hearts are embedded in these first responder communities, in these fire departments, in these police departments, sheriff's agencies, what have you. The one thing that guy talked about a few minutes ago that I want to hit the home, and this is straight to the chaplains. The ICISF training platform is meant for you as well, because I promise you with everything he just said, not just about SC Elite, but about Billy Graham's rapid response team, everybody is ICISF trained, International Critical Incident Stress Foundation trained.
Right.
And the chaplains need to do that too. Chaplains need this training as well, because there's specific things in there that will help you help the first responders. So I cannot promote that out there enough. Guy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Sarge, I couldn't agree more. I live in a community. We have the Coastal Crisis Chaplaincy, which I started off as a police officer before there was a chaplaincy, and I saw them at their birth, and we were just blessed that from the beginning they embraced peer support and critical incident stress management and the ICISF, and to this day they continue to train all their chaplains. To be involved in the law enforcement first responder community, you have to have that training because you have to understand your role. In a debriefing or in a setting, a police officer knows that you're a chaplain and knows that if they need a chaplain, that's the role they go to. But in that response, a peer serves a role, a mental health professional serves a role, a chaplain serves a role, and I guess the best way I could describe it, like you said, Sarge, is each of us need to stay in our own lane, because when we do that, we provide the best service. But that training is so critical because you're so valuable. Chaplains are so valuable to what we need, what we do, and they're such a great resource if they're properly trained and they're willing to fit into the overall process.
I agree. And I'm going to tell you one thing I've noticed, that it's not just chaplains, but anybody in the peer support world that has their knowledge and their training in check, and they show up to these scenes, you'll see a lot of times, and people could know they're a chaplain, but just because that they know that they're a part of that team, they still migrate to them. They'll still want to talk to them. They'll still want to interact with them. And that's something that that's probably been the last 5 years, even 10 years maybe, but 5 to 7 years, I've noticed that whole transition, because it's always been like the blue line badge has got to talk to the blue line badge. The red line badge has got to go over there and talk to that red line badge. That's always how it's been.
Right.
But you're seeing more and more that it's becoming more comfortable for people to talk to somebody that's not on their line, so to say. So yeah. That's something I've noticed, and I know Charleston's so intertwined in the first responder community. It's ridiculous because of how uniquely set up Charleston is. So for one, I'm jealous that Charleston County has got a program specific inside the agency, and they've got a coordinator. That's all they do. Well, I don't care the size of your department. It's the day and age where you need to start thinking about having a guy, Van Horn, in your agency. Well,
the one thing we do, Sarge, is you're absolutely right. What we do, we want for everyone. We want my position to be successful because we want Richland County, we want Greenville County, we want Spartanburg County, we want Aiken County to see the value in spending the money to have a full-time position, the benefit it pays for the wellness of the men and women that are out there doing the job. We know not only in South Carolina, nationally, at 5 years, we're going to lose 50% of the kids we send to the academy. And we believe wholeheartedly that if we can get you early in your career and we can talk to you about wellness and we can talk to you about stress management and we can put these tools and resources in your hand, that we're going to get so many more of you guys past the 5-year mark that makes this a healthy career for you and a happy career. You're still going to have struggles. It's a tough job, but we're going to help you and give you the tools to manage it so you and your family can navigate through this thing in a healthy manner. We provide training not only for the men and women out there on the front line, but for their families as well. They're such an integral part of the wellness of what we do, and they're every bit as involved. The families are critical, that we don't just focus on our folks, that we focus on the entire family. And we're just praying that it's the beginning, that my position is going to be expand throughout the state, and taking care of ourselves is going to be more and more important to all of our agencies.
Well, and just you said it also, when you talk about some of these other counties, I mean, Charleston County is unique. Charleston County is a very large law enforcement agency. So I'm specifically talking about the sheriff's office. So for them to have a peer coordinator that's specifically the sheriff's office, he's got relationships with other agencies. That's not what I'm talking about. But when you start looking around the state of South Carolina, state of Georgia, you've got what is still considered large agencies, but they're smaller and cannot fund one position for something like that. Those agencies need to look at a coordinator for the entire county.
Right.
I mean, that's something that we have started seeing to come out. I recently went up to Hendersonville, North Carolina. They're in the same boat. They've got someone who kind of coordinates kind of for everybody. So yeah. I liked how that flowed. So it's not specific that this agency needs to have a coordinator just for this agency. It might be the whole county needs a coordinator because they're loaded up with volunteer fire departments. I mean,
right.
it's different everywhere. So I throw that in there.
One size does not fit all.
Exactly. And that's the cool part about this program. It's very bendable and shapeable and fixable to what it's that area.
The foundation of peer support is rock solid. And that
exactly.
foundation is built on that training that we talked about. But above that, it takes the passion of the men and women in first responder profession to think outside the box, to call around the country, to call around the state, to reach out to you, to reach out to Eric. Just find ways to make it work for your community, because we know that lives are at stake. Marriages are at stake. Careers are at stake. We talked about burying these emotions and burying this stress and hiding it under substance abuse. Someday the wall's going to crack and it's going to explode. These are all great ideas and great concepts, but no, it's no different than a man with a gun call. People's lives are at stake, and we have to be passionate about protecting the people that are coming into our profession and dedicating their lives to their communities. We need to dedicate what we do to help them and their families.
I love it. I'm going to tell you right now, usually I start with the closing remarks, but you just hit the nail on the head with closing remarks. So I'm going to say this, Guy, I am very appreciative of you and your career, your wife, because I'm going to tell you there's a lot of wives that don't stick around with an alcoholic cop.
Amen.
I'm appreciative to your wife. I am glad that she hung around.
Sarge.
Cindy's her name.
Cindy saved my life.
Tell Cindy I said I love her and I appreciate her for sticking around, because she saw something in you also, just like the rest of us do. So we're glad you're doing what you're doing. We're glad we're doing what you did. And even though she probably hated that part of your life, she's probably thankful for it because it put you where you are right now.
Amen.
So with that, do you want to throw any final words in there at the end?
I love you, Sarge. I love our listeners, but please know there's help. If you're listening, please know that struggles are part of life. They're normal. You exist in an abnormal. People don't do what we do. It's abnormal. Your reactions are normal. Please reach out to a peer, reach out to somebody, and also know that as much as we try, each of us has to be responsible to our own wellness. We have to pay attention to our health, to our exercise, to our nutrition, to our rest, to our relationships. We have to take authority and responsibility over that. We love being cops, but don't let that be your identity, sole identity. Let your identity be a husband, a wife, a father, a mother, a community member, a friend, a son or daughter. It's not just about, we get to be first responders. We are trained. We love to help people, but at the same time, focus on yourself, focus on your wellness. Organizations are trying to do better, but if you're not in charge of your own wellness, nobody else is going to be. I love you. And I know Sarge will put some contact information. Please reach out to me if I can help you in any way, or if I can help you in the position building, policies, those kind of things. We've got policies in place and those kind of things. So just please, I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I'm going to plug it right here. Guy putting out his email right now. G Van Horn, GVANHORN at charlestoncounty.org. G Van Horn at charlestoncounty.org. That's his direct email. If you've got any interest in speaking straight to, I'm going to say straight to the horse's mouth, this is the one you want to go talk to if you've got an interest in knowing more about coordination for an agency. This guy's got the perfect path. He can put you on it. So, guys, thank you for being on the show, brother. I love talking to you, and I'm glad that we got caught up on this point right here, because I'm going to tell you, when we're done with this show, I'm about to start picking your brain.
You're welcome, Sarge.
Thanks again for listening, friends. Let me tell you, we are greatly appreciative of your support of the SOS show, the Striped Onion show, and we are just as grateful for the friends we have inside our CISM network. Don't forget to share today's SOS call on your social media platforms. That is critical to getting the word out. And also make sure to leave some comments on whichever platform you listen to us on. We will respond to you. Visit our website at some point, thesosshow.com, and check it out. See what we have there. Sign up for the email notifications about shows and events we have coming up in the future. This is all about the first responders, about their support circles. So we want to make sure that it is impactful. And until next time, we hope everyone has a great day and a great week. Y'all stay safe out there, and God bless.